The quantum fluctuation detector shouldn't have been making that sound. Dr. Isabella Romano pushed her dark curls away from her face, frowning at the equipment that had suddenly come alive with unprecedented readings. The New Mexico Desert Observatory had been her sanctuary for the past 5 years, a place where she could pursue her theoretical work on quantum entanglement without interruption. But tonight, something was different. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting the sensitive instruments. The readings suggested a massive quantum field disturbance directly above the facility, something that should have been impossible according to known physics. Isabella had built her career on challenging conventional wisdom. At 32, she'd already revolutionized quantum theory with her work on long-distance entanglement, earning both acclaim and skepticism from the scientific community. But nothing in her research had prepared her for what she was seeing now. The equipment's steady hum transformed into a high-pitched whine. Outside, the desert night had grown unnaturally still. Even the crickets had fallen silent. Isabella's skin prickled with static electricity as she stepped away from her workstation and moved toward the observatory's dome opening. The stars above seemed to ripple, like pebbles disturbing a calm pond. She reached for her phone to document the phenomenon, but it was dead. So was her laptop. Every electronic device in the observatory had gone dark, except for the quantum fluctuation detector, which continued its frantic warning. A soft blue light began to filter through the dome's opening, growing steadily brighter. Isabella's scientific mind raced through possible explanations. Aurora borealis, impossible this far south, military testing, no alerts had been issued, ball lightning, wrong atmospheric conditions. Each theory crumbled as quickly as she formed it. The light intensified, and with it came a sound that existed more in her mind than in her ears, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through her bones. Her first instinct was to run, but curiosity had always been her defining trait. She stood transfixed as the blue light coalesced into a perfect sphere hovering just outside the observatory. "Remarkable," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the humming. The sphere pulsed in response to her voice, sending out ripples of energy that she could somehow perceive on a level beyond normal human senses. The air around her began to shimmer with mathematical patterns. Sacred geometry made manifest. As a scientist, Isabella recognized the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, and dozens of other mathematical constants woven into the very fabric of space around her. It was as if reality itself was being rewritten according to some vast cosmic equation. She felt no fear as the blue light enveloped her. Instead, a profound sense of recognition washed over her, as if she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life without knowing it. The last thing she saw before the world dissolved around her was her own reflection in the sphere's surface, her dark eyes wide with wonder rather than terror. The first person to notice Dr. Isabella Romano's disappearance was Dr. James Harrison, her research partner, who arrived the next morning to find the observatory in perfect order, but completely empty. Her car was still in the parking lot. Her phone and laptop lay dead on her desk. The quantum fluctuation detector, now silent, displayed readings that made no sense. Energy signatures that defied the laws of physics as humanity understood them. The investigation that followed would spawn countless theories, from government conspiracy to mental breakdown. But those who knew Isabella best recognized the truth in the data she'd left behind. The numbers told a story of contact, of a bridge between worlds, of a door opening to possibilities beyond human comprehension. As search parties combed the desert and headlines questioned the fate of the brilliant physicist, no one noticed the subtle changes beginning to occur in the quantum field around Earth. No one except a select few who had been watching, waiting for someone like Isabella, someone who could see the patterns, someone who could serve as a bridge between two worlds. In the vast darkness between stars, Isabella Romano was about to begin an education that would change not only her life, but the future of human civilization. Her disappearance marked not an ending, but a beginning, the first step in humanity's greatest journey. The quantum fluctuation detector continued its silent vigil in the empty observatory, its memory banks holding the only earthly record of the moment when everything changed. And in its data, encrypted in the very fabric of reality, was a message that would take years to decode. We have chosen. The transformation begins. The transformation. Consciousness returned to Isabella like waves lapping at a shore. Her first coherent thought was about light, not the harsh fluorescence of her observatory, but a soft, perpetually shifting aurora that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The surface beneath her wasn't cold metal as she'd expected, but a material that adjusted to her body's temperature and shape, like memory foam made of living tissue. We apologize for any discomfort during the transition. The voice manifested directly in her mind, carrying with it impressions of concern and scientific curiosity. Your neural pathways are still adapting to our method of communication. Isabella sat up slowly, her scientist's mind already cataloging everything around her. The chamber she found herself in defied Euclidean geometry. Angles that should have been impossible curved gracefully into each other, creating a space that seemed larger on the inside than its external dimensions would allow. A figure materialized before her, its form fluid and prismatic. It reminded Isabella of a mathematician's visualization of a four-dimensional object projected into three-dimensional space. I am Nexus, the being communicated. I serve as interpreter between our species. Where am I? Isabella asked, surprised to find her voice steady. And why me? You are aboard what you might call a research vessel, though such terms are inadequate. As for why, your work on quantum entanglement brought you remarkably close to understanding principles our civilization mastered millennia ago. Your mind was compatible. Over the following weeks, though time seemed to flow differently in this place, Isabella underwent what Nexus called cellular harmonization. Her body was being prepared, enhanced to handle the vast amount of knowledge they intended to share. The process was painless but profound. She could feel her consciousness expanding, neural pathways restructuring themselves to accommodate new forms of perception. Your species exists at a crucial junction, Nexus explained during one of their many sessions. They stood in what appeared to be a vast observatory, but unlike anything on Earth. Isabella could see the quantum fields she'd only theorized about, watch as probability waves collapsed into reality. Humanity's potential is immense, but so is your capacity for self-destruction. We have been watching, waiting for the right moment and the right person to initiate contact. The aliens, who called themselves the Collective, existed in a state of technological advancement that made Earth's greatest achievements seem primitive by comparison. They had transcended the boundaries between organic and artificial intelligence, between matter and energy, between consciousness and reality itself. During her training, Isabella learned to access abilities that seemed miraculous. She could perceive quantum states directly, manipulate probability fields, and even influence the fundamental forces that bound reality together. Her mind expanded to encompass concepts that her old self would have found incomprehensible. But with each new power came a deeper understanding of the responsibility she would bear. The Collective showed her visions of possible futures, timelines where humanity destroyed itself, where Earth became uninhabitable, where technological advancement without wisdom led to catastrophe. They also showed her humanity's potential, a future where Earth joined the galactic community, where human consciousness evolved beyond its current limitations, where the barriers between species and civilizations dissolved. There are others. Nexus revealed one day, as Isabella practiced manipulating quantum fields with her newly enhanced abilities. Other civilizations at similar developmental stages to humanity. Some have successfully made the transition we hope to help Earth achieve. Others failed. The weight of this knowledge settled heavily on Isabella's shoulders. Why not simply reveal yourselves to everyone? Why work through intermediaries? Direct intervention has proven catastrophic in the past, Nexus explained. Change must come from within, guided by those who understand both what humanity is and what it could become. You will be a bridge, Isabella Romano, not just between species, but between realities. As her training progressed, Isabella began to understand the true scope of her mission. The abilities she was gaining weren't meant to make her a superhero or a goddess. They were tools to help humanity take its next evolutionary step. But the collective had also shown her glimpses of opposition she would face. Powerful interests on Earth who would resist change. Shadow organizations that suspected the truth but sought to control it for their own ends. The final phase of her transformation involved what the collective called quantum entanglement of consciousness, a process that would permanently link her mind to their vast network of knowledge while maintaining her individual identity. As she prepared for the procedure, Isabella thought of her old life, of the observatory in New Mexico, of all she had left behind. "You fear losing yourself," Nexus observed. "No," Isabella replied, surprising herself with the certainty in her response. "I fear not being strong enough for what comes next." That fear, Nexus communicated with what Isabella had learned to recognize as their version of a smile, is precisely why you were chosen. As the transformation chamber activated around her, Isabella felt her consciousness expand one final time. The universe, in all its infinite complexity, opened before her like a flower blooming in accelerated time. She was still herself, still Isabella Romano, but she was also something more. A bridge between worlds, a key to humanity's next great leap forward. The chamber filled with light, and with it came understanding. Her return to Earth would mark not just her transformation, but the beginning of humanity's own metamorphosis. Whether that change would lead to evolution or extinction would depend on the choices made in the coming months and years. In the depths of space, aboard a vessel that defied human understanding, Dr. Isabella Romano completed her transformation. She was ready to return home, not as a victim of abduction, but as a harbinger of change, carrying within her the seeds of humanity's possible salvation. Return to Earth. The Pentagon's most secure conference room had never felt so small. 3 years after her disappearance, Dr. Isabella Romano sat calmly at the center of a storm of military brass, intelligence officials, and scientific experts. Her return had been spectacular, materializing in broad daylight at the same observatory where she'd vanished, her presence setting off every sensor within a 100-mile radius. "Let me be clear," General Marcus Wells leaned forward, his weathered face betraying both fascination and suspicion. "You're claiming advanced aliens enhanced your biological structure to serve as some kind of intermediary." Isabella's eyes, now bearing a subtle iridescent quality, met his gaze. "I understand your skepticism, General. Perhaps a demonstration would help." Without moving, she caused every electronic device in the room to power down simultaneously. Then, with a slight gesture, she restored them. But now each screen displayed real-time quantum field fluctuations around the building. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Catherine Hayes, the government's leading quantum physicist. These readings, they violate everything we know about. Everything we thought we knew, Isabella corrected gently. Our understanding of physics has been like trying to comprehend an ocean by studying a single drop of water. The room erupted in overlapping questions and demands. Isabella let them talk, her enhanced senses picking up not just their words, but their underlying emotions, fear, wonder, ambition, and most dangerously, desire for control. She could perceive the quantum probability streams flowing around each person, showing her countless possible futures branching out from this moment. I didn't come here seeking permission or validation. Isabella's voice cut through the chaos. I'm here out of courtesy, and to warn you, humanity stands at a crossroads. The collective showed me possible futures, some where we achieve wonders beyond imagination, others where we destroy ourselves. My role is to help guide us toward the better path. And if we don't want your guidance, the question came from Senator Richard Morrison, his quantum signature pulsing with dark intentions that Isabella could now perceive clearly. This isn't about want, Senator. It's about survival. Isabella stood, her movement somehow making the room feel larger. Changes are coming, whether Earth's governments are ready or not. I'm offering to help navigate those changes. As she spoke, her consciousness expanded, touching briefly on the vast network of knowledge the collective had connected her to. Somewhere in Washington, protesters were already gathering outside the White House, demanding answers about her return. Social media was exploding with theories and grainy videos of her appearance at the observatory. The world was watching, waiting. There are others, she continued, watching the ripples of shock move through the room. People like me, chosen by different members of the collective. They'll be making themselves known soon. Earth isn't just joining a galactic community. We're a part of something far larger and more profound. Dr. Hayes stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her initial skepticism. These abilities you've demonstrated, they're based on quantum manipulation. In part. Isabella raised her hand, and above the conference table, a miniature galaxy formed from points of light. The collective taught me to perceive and influence reality at its most fundamental level. But the abilities aren't meant to be weapons or tools for dominance. They're meant to help humanity understand its place in a much larger universe. The holographic galaxy expanded, showing connections between star systems that pulsed with energy. There's an entire network of civilizations out there, linked by what you might call a quantum internet of consciousness. Earth has been invited to join, but we have to prove we're ready. Ready by whose standards? General Wells demanded. By the standards of survival itself. Isabella's voice carried weight beyond its volume. Look around you. Climate crisis, nuclear proliferation, artificial intelligence reaching critical development points. Humanity is approaching several extinction-level challenges simultaneously. The collective isn't here to save us. They're here to help us save ourselves. She turned to face the wall of windows overlooking Washington, D.C. To her enhanced vision, the city was alive with quantum possibilities, streams of potential futures weaving through its streets. I'll be establishing a research center, open to international cooperation. We'll start by sharing technologies to address immediate global threats, clean energy, environmental restoration, disease prevention. But the real work will be preparing humanity for what comes next. And if we try to stop you, Senator Morrison's threat was barely veiled. Isabella smiled, not unkindly. You can't stop evolution, Senator. You can only choose whether to evolve or become extinct. She turned back to the room. I'll return in 1 week to begin formal cooperation procedures. Until then, I suggest you all consider carefully what role you want to play in humanity's next great leap forward." With that, she simply vanished, though she hadn't actually left. Her new abilities allowed her to shift slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, becoming invisible while observing their reactions. She watched as they argued, made calls, and tried to process what they'd witnessed. As she finally departed, she reached out with her enhanced consciousness, touching briefly on other minds across the globe, the other chosen ones, awakening to their own transformations. Soon they would find each other, and the real work would begin. The sun was setting over Washington as Isabella reappeared on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Above, the first stars were becoming visible through the city's light pollution. To her new senses, they weren't just distant points of light. They were beacons singing with the quantum resonance of countless civilizations, waiting to welcome humanity into a larger universe. But first, there were bridges to build, minds to open, and a species to help evolve. Isabella Romano, once a physicist seeking to understand the universe's mysteries, had become something far more, a guardian of humanity's potential, a key to its transformation, and a harbinger of changes that would reshape the very definition of what it meant to be human. Hidden agenda. The underground facility beneath the New Mexico desert hummed with activity. Isabella stood in its central chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing quantum field disturbances across the globe. In the 3 months since her return, she had gathered a small but extraordinary team of scientists, visionaries, and fellow contactees. "We have a problem," announced Dr. Nathan Blackwood, a former DARPA researcher who'd risked everything to join Isabella's cause. "Someone's been accessing our quantum network. They're using technology that shouldn't exist on Earth." Isabella closed her eyes, extending her consciousness into the quantum fields. There it was, a familiar signature, but distorted, wrong. "They're using reversed engineered collective technology," she revealed, opening her iridescent eyes. "And I know who has it." The truth hit like a thunderbolt. Senator Morrison hadn't just been resistant to her mission. He'd been protecting his own decades-long conspiracy. A shadow organization had recovered alien technology from a crash in 1978, secretly developing weapons that could disrupt the very fabric of reality. "They're afraid of losing control," said Amara Patel, another contactee whose abilities focused on reading quantum timelines. "In every future where humanity successfully joins the galactic community, their power structure crumbles." The awakening. The final confrontation came sooner than anyone expected. Morrison's group launched a desperate attack using their reverse-engineered weapons, trying to sever Earth's growing quantum connections to the collective. Isabella stood atop the observatory where her journey had begun, her consciousness expanded to its fullest potential. Around the globe, other contactees did the same, forming a network of enhanced minds working in perfect harmony. "You don't understand what you're risking," she projected directly into Morrison's mind as his weapons tore at the quantum fabric. "Those connections aren't just communications. They're part of what holds reality together." The sky above writhed with competing energies, Morrison's corrupted technology versus the pure quantum manipulation of Isabella and her fellow contactees. At stake was not just humanity's future, but the very stability of space-time around Earth. In that moment of crisis, Isabella made a choice. Instead of fighting Morrison's group, she opened her mind completely, sharing with them the full scope of what the collective had shown her, the infinite possibilities, the profound connection between all living things, the true nature of consciousness and reality. The effect was devastating in its beauty. Morrison's weapons, powered down as their operators, overwhelmed by the vision of unity and potential, chose hope over fear. The quantum fabric repaired itself, stronger than before. In synchronized quantum resonance with thousands of other evolved minds across the galaxy, Isabella initiated humanity's greatest transformation. It wasn't a physical change, but a shift in consciousness, an awakening to humanity's true place in the cosmic web of life. The sky cleared, revealing stars that now seemed close enough to touch. In cities around the world, people looked up with new eyes, feeling the first stirrings of connection to something vast and wonderful. The revolution wasn't one of violence or technology, but of understanding. Epilogue. 1 year later, the research center Isabella had established became a beacon of innovation and hope. Nations pooled their resources as old barriers of mistrust dissolved in the face of shared cosmic citizenship. The first official delegation from Earth was preparing to visit a collective world, while alien representatives walked openly among humans, sharing knowledge and culture. Isabella stood once again in her observatory, but now she wasn't alone. Hundreds of other enhanced humans worked alongside her, helping to guide humanity's expansion into the cosmos. The quantum network hummed with the thoughts and dreams of billions, all connected in a symphony of consciousness that transcended individual limitations while celebrating unique perspectives. Was it worth it? Asked Nathan, joining her at the telescope. Isabella smiled, her enhanced senses perceiving the intricate dance of quantum probabilities that had led to this moment. In countless parallel realities, humanity had chosen differently, had succumbed to fear or greed or simple inertia. But in this reality, they had chosen to evolve, to reach for the stars not with weapons, but with open minds and hearts. "Look," she said, gesturing to where a young girl was learning to perceive quantum fields for the first time, her face glowing with wonder. That's what it was all for. Not just reaching the stars, but becoming the people who deserve to walk among them. Above them, the night sky pulsed with possibility, each star a beacon calling humanity toward its destiny among the cosmic community of consciousness. Isabella's abduction hadn't just transformed her. It had catalyzed the transformation of an entire species, opening the door to an adventure that would never end. The universe, in all its infinite complexity, waited to welcome its newest members. And humanity, at last, was ready to answer the call. The end.